Hello, and welcome to the Four Words Podcast. My name is Aaron Doom Spikinator Harris, and I am joined by three horribly disfigured person-like creatures.
It's been rough.
Oh my God.
We
New
are,
Year's Day was not kind of many of us.
yeah, it was bad. So I would like to welcome Scott Haberdashing Sestrin.
Yeah, that's me. How's it going, everybody?
Hey, Stephen Frostbite Allen.
I survived. I'm back. 2016.
And the DeLux, Michael Asderish Matthews.
I almost got taken out there, but I made it through. I made it through the end of the season.
There we go. So welcome to the stream, guys, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys for downloading us, listening to us, and we are back after a couple weeks off here for the holiday season here. So we have a lot of news to get to, so I'm just going to dive right into that. First off, new year, new stuff. Upcoming return of our Art of League series is coming soon. We have some awesome guests planned for you guys, including another special episode with awesome guests we're trying to book here. And I mean, we've got guests coming. I'm just going to say that. Awesome stuff. Get hyped.
We're going to tease that one for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I should just throw people off and say something like "Winter is coming."
Also, our King to Claude shirts shipped, and as you can see, the lovely, if you're joining us live or if you're checking us out on YouTube, the lovely Scott Haberdashing Session is wearing his.
They are comfy.
I have it. It's somewhere in my room.
Liar.
I did not buy one. I just donate a lot of money to the charity. So
there you go.
It's surprisingly comfortable. Like I was totally down to get it for the cause and to support the Claude, but then I was like, oh, this is actually really comfortable.
Could be like an all the time shirt that you just wear every day.
Maybe.
Never wash it.
But between that and then Optimus Tom did a 24-hour Poppy only live stream, and between those things we raised $1,335.11 for the National Multiple Sclerosis Foundation. So thank you guys so much for your generosity. Awesome that we were able to do that and hopefully help out to Claude and help stop this terrible thing that's afflicting him. Going on from there, PAX East. Keep your eyes peeled on Twitter and Reddit for details. We'll be doing some fundraising as we come up to it because we want to get as many people from the network out there, get as much swag as we can out there, get a big, huge, awesome booth. So we're going to do everything we can to throw as much money as we can into it. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon, through your donations, through YouTube, through everything, because that's what helps fund this stuff. And if you're planning on going to PAX East or you weren't sure if you wanted to go, just know that if you go to PAX East, you're going to find us there. You'll find more out about in what fashion and who's going to be there and everything as we get closer. But I know I'm going to try to make it out there. I know a lot of people from the network are going. So be prepared. It's going to be awesome. And we'll have more for you.
Yeah, I think 2015 was a really big year for T-Force, but I think 2016 might be the year that blows 2015 out of the water.
Yep, can only get bigger.
Absolutely. And then from there on, just want to prop out the rest of the network here. Check out we got a new guy, Xanthos, on the Hearth of the Cards crew. So check them out. That podcast is going strong, and with a lot of the changes and addition of League of Explorers on there. A lot of cool stuff going on that podcast. We have a lot more stuff going on in our T-Force RPG community with LeShock, so definitely check them out if you want to get into D&D or never have or want to learn it. I mean, it's a great, safe place to join. You can listen to the podcast, too, which is very entertaining, or watch the VODs on YouTube.
I love it. It's so much fun.
It really is. I find myself listening to it on the way from work all the time. Also, keep checking the T-Force proper, of course, listed in the community series that they just had recently. If you didn't already, they had guests like Black and Nola, Weldon Green, Guido from Just Okay Gamers, the Lane podcast, the LOL Anonymous podcast crew. So some great episodes. We're really trying to work with other communities here and really dive deeper into the scene as a whole. And T-Force proper will have some stuff they're announcing here. They have some cool stuff coming too. So
Did we announce what's happening with DeClaude and Pone? I know he mentioned it on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, I guess.
Oh, he did. He did.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. So yeah,
Okay.
it is official. So yeah, Pone and DeClaude are both going to be on the new League of Legends podcast, like the one thrown out by
The
Riot.
The
Riot
community
Community
spot.
podcast.
The Riot
Yeah.
Community podcast, and they are flying them out there for that. So that's going to be pretty sweet, and look out for that. They're going to be recording this month, and I think that's going to go out in February. And then also check out the Oslao podcast, holding down the OCE scene. Honestly, if you listen to them guys, they add a really nice different view of League of Legends, and it's really cool getting to know the other scenes, some of the other international scenes. They do a really good job covering that stuff, so definitely check them out. And also, the LCS Rundown crew is coming in strong. They revamped a bit. They've got some new guys on the crew in there, and with the new LCS season around the corner, they're going to be coming in hot. They're going to be doing some hosted games here soon, some community games, try to get everyone pumped for the new season. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this Saturday here, they're going to be
This
doing
Saturday.
a lot of games and a live fantasy draft. I'm hoping they'll put that back up on YouTube as well. So if you're looking for tips for your new fantasy team coming up here, hopefully that'll be loaded onto the Trinity Force Network's YouTube profile, so you can check that out.
yes,
But if you don't, you can always check out their podcast too.
absolutely. And from there, sorry, the news was a bit long this week,
Holy
but we
crap! There was a lot of news.
yeah, we just,
Like
I mean,
it's been 2
we've been off
weeks.
for a couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, this is our 42nd episode,
42.
and yeah, we're coming up. We're coming up on a year here. So,
I mean, let's be
Yes.
real though. The release of DeLux Jam was probably the biggest thing that happened since our most
good.
recent podcast.
So good.
We all agree it was really good. And I would not be surprised if that either starts this episode or ends it.
That'll do maybe both.
So,
I'm not sure.
Maybe both. Just
Do
have
we
it
even
playing
need
in
the
background.
podcast?
Just play it the
Nah,
whole
it'll-
time.
Just in the middle of the podcast, it'll just sporadically just start playing, and people
Right.
go, "What the? All right, as whatever."
Let's talk about our trinket tip. Just a quick PSA for everyone out there.
Even more
The-
news, so to speak.
The new Champion Select goes live January 13th in North America here. We talked about it a few weeks ago, well, probably a good month ago, but it's really going to change up the way people will queue up for League. And I think there's just like a very small minority that won't like it. Everyone else should really enjoy this new feature.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. I think we talked about it a lot in that episode, so I highly recommend everyone go back, and if you're curious and trying to figure out how it works, or like maybe you just need somebody to help make sense of it for you, as Haber mentioned, we talked about it, but I think it's going to be nice. I think it's going to streamline a lot of things.
I'm looking forward to it so much.
I think it's really gonna make it a lot better of a experience for playing solo queue. You know, like the TLDR of it is that you choose two positions or fill that you prefer before you go into queue to find a team. That way everyone knows your pick intent, so they know what champs that you are, and then you choose your pick intent, like what champ you plan on playing, so that your team knows like who you want to play. So maybe they won't ban out that champ. And then it changes up the bans too. So rather than the first person in the lobby having all the bans, the people who have the last three picks have one ban each. So
Yeah, so it's going to be fun seeing that go live here. Let's talk about an item for this week. So since we haven't been on the last couple of weeks, there's been a bit of a change in the mid lane as far as item selection goes.
A
So
radical change.
yeah, how's that going for you, Steve?
So, if you Riot historically really doesn't like when support items and jungle items and role specific items seem to like find their way into other roles. And so when I first heard about this, I thought this was a crazy thing that wouldn't last more than a patch.
Right.
But before I go any further, the item I'm talking about is Frost Queen's Claim. Now, if you're like, wait, why does that item sound familiar? Why are you talking about a mid lane? It's the fully upgraded support item if you were to go start with like a Spell Thieves in the support role. And it's honestly kind of taking the mid lane by storm right now on a lot of mages that can really take advantage of this item. So, but if you're completely lost and have never heard of this item or just confused what it is, I'll quickly run down the stats for you. It's Frost Queen's Claim. It evolves from Frostfang and Fiendish Codex. Frostfang is the evolved form of Spell Thief's Edge. Evolved form, I like that. It's like Pokemon. It gives Frost Queen's Claim gives 150% base mana regen, 50 AP, 10% cooldown reduction, and it also has a tribute passive, which means that spells and basic attacks against champions or buildings deal 15 additional damage and grant 15 gold. So it's basically another source of gold, which is why it's...
That's the part that changed that really made it... that made mid laners realize, oh, we can take this item, because before it used to be like, in order to get that tribute passive to work, you couldn't CS for 12 seconds. So once they took that part out, mid laners were like, this gives us a ball of stats that we can work with, plus some little extra poke and gold generation to help with the increased cost of all the other items. So
and before I definitely want you to chime in, but we haven't even gotten to the active,
right?
And this thing is like insane. So you've definitely seen them, I bet, if you've been playing the game. At least supports have been running it. And so it's called Spooky Ghosts. You may remember Twin Shadows from past seasons. These ghosts will go out and they'll search for 6 seconds.
What are they actually called? Spooky Ghosts?
The active says unique. I'm trying to see what the name is. I don't know. Everyone calls them Spooky Ghosts.
Right.
Says summons 2 icy ghosts.
It doesn't have a name.
And so for 6 seconds, they'll just kind of go out on the map and they'll seek out nearby enemy champions. And if they make contact with them, it not only gives you true sight of them, but it's also going to slow them for 40% for 4 seconds, which is huge on top of all the other stats we just mentioned. And the fact you get the gold generation.
It's a slow that's 40% is a good chunk, and it doesn't decay. It's just a flat 40%.
It's pretty good.
So
that's damn good.
Oh god, it makes skill shots so much easier to land in the mid lane.
As soon as you get that, you just wait till you have ultimate, blow somebody up, and then rinse and repeat until you can't anymore.
You're gonna gank me? No.
Nah.
So we just listed a bunch of stats at you and a cool active, but you might be wondering, okay, so that sounds pretty good, but why is this like? What does this compared to other items that somebody might get in the mid lane? I mean, if you think about what a lot of mages go for, they often go for like a CDR item that gives you mana regen, like a Morellonomicon, for instance, and if you're trading off, a little bit of CDR and a little bit of stats, you're getting a crazy powerful active and also extra gold from the passive.
Right. This would replace my Morello. Morello. Yeah.
I was curious about like the gold efficiency part of it. Like the base gold efficiency of Frost Queen's Claim, it's only 97% versus 123% for Morellonomicon. But it only takes roughly 4 minutes if you're using that tribute ability, that passive, for it to equal the same 122% gold efficiency of Morellonomicon.
The cool thing about it, because of its like unique form of CC, it's nice because one, you can stop and spot ganks, but two, you can even get assists in other areas or other of the map, just by activating it. So um, it's a very cool and extremely useful active. Like, even if you don't necessarily have a specific use for it right now, sometimes just using it will help give you a lot of information you wouldn't have
Right.
normally had.
I think right now it's just that active is so effective, whether you're trying to, hit a brand skill shot combo and somebody's trying to dodge your spells, like you're like, nope. Whether you're trying to run away, whether you're trying to pick somebody, like it's a super strong active.
So good.
Wards,
or even like, hey, we got a minute. Can we go do dragon? You just pop those off. You see, oh, no one's nearby. I guess we can do it.
Yep. It's super strong, and like, it really keeps mids safe from jungle ganks is the big thing that I've noticed. And also it's great to start team fights, or to, like, as people are trying to disengage from team fights, say you want a team fight, to help get that cleanup at the end. It's really nice for that. Also, the I think one thing that a lot of people overlook is the extra bonus damage to towers, because a lot of times mids have a little hard time shoving down lanes unless they're like a constant, wave shover, or they're a like a AD, like a Talon or a Zed or something. And this helps them to shove the towers down a little faster as well.
Yeah, I would also. So I generally don't want to get too much into like patch notes and upcoming changes too much when we talk about items on our show. That we more have the T-Force proper for that. But the reason why I really wanted to mention this is because as I mentioned, I first thought that, oh, this is like a phase. It's like, oh, when we had Runeglaive Ezreal in the mid lane, it's not going to last that long.
Rip in peace.
And now we've got this support item in the mid lane. But then Riot Midler actually came out and he said, they're kind of interested in having this item in the mid lane. So
this
like they reverted a PBE change where they were going to restrict the gold gen passive for mid laners, like if you farm somebody, disable it for 12 seconds. And they just straight up reverted it. And so they are okay with it in mid. So I think it's a certainly a viable option, but it is worth noting that some of the things we mentioned, like the active and the mana regen, are getting some number tweaks in an upcoming patch that's coming pretty soon. Yeah. So be on the lookout for that.
They want to make it an option rather than the standard. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Frost Queen's claim.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that changes in the upcoming 6.1 patch. But it looks like a good new alternative for mid laners. Okay. So this episode, we want to get back in. We're going to start the ball rolling a little bit slower, just so we're not incredibly rusty coming in. We're going to talk about Masteries. We're going to go down the trees here, since a few things have changed since they first came out. But we kind of want to highlight the different trees, what's good about them, why you're going to take certain points in them, and the ups and downs of each keystone. Because I think Masteries play the biggest role they've had ever.
Yeah, they're pretty.
End of any season,
especially if you like lightning.
Yeah. Everything lightning.
Right. Okay, so let's just start out with the ferocity tree right here, because it's on the left. It's the first one, right? Okay.
Because you always pass the duchy to the left.
God damn. Okay, so our ferocity tree tier 1 is either fury or sorcery.
And I will say this, it may be helpful if you're kind of confused by all the names to like maybe just bring up the tree. You could look it up on a wiki or you could look it up in the client because I know for one, I often forget what the names of them are, and it sometimes helps to actually visualize the tree as we go through it.
Well, I think like for players coming in or even players that have been playing for a while that are used to just making a mastery page and forget about it, throw that out the window this season. Just get in the habit of doing a mastery page before you get into a game.
Yeah, it's really it's quicker to set up a tree in my opinion, which is nice, but trees can be accommodated per champion a lot differently. So I really recommend having like one or two for each champ that you main, and then having a bunch set up maybe for generalized things, but not being afraid to like pull those up and change them real quick, or have a blank one that you can just go and pop points in real quick.
Because there's just like so much now that you can change depending on the matchup, and you can change it really quick.
My suggestion real quick. So what I do personally is I have basically a page for each champion, and every time I play that champion, I alter it depending on what I'm doing, and then I save it and leave it. And the next game I play, I pull up that champion page, alter it for the game if I need to. If I don't, then I don't. And then it's just each champion that I play, I have each little specific, now's the time, if any, to name your masteries after the champion you're playing them.
Yeah. So
as always, you can go to sites like Champion GG and Pro Builds to kind of get a reference to see what other people are doing. And then, like, if you're looking for a baseline to look for, like, what kind of makes sense on this champion, you can kind of see, oh, it seems like a lot of people are running this Thunderlords thing. Maybe that might be helpful,
Yeah.
Okay.
So first
Getting
tier
back in
one,
here.
tier one on this tree, you have Fury and Sorcery. One gives attack speed, one gives increased ability and spell damage. TLDR of that is that if you need more attack speed, get the attack speed, get Fury. If you tend to rely more on your abilities or you're a magic damage healer, do the Sorcery.
Yeah,
I almost always like Fury in every scenario, to be honest.
Really?
In most situations, I prefer Fury.
I was going to say the other way around.
Yeah.
What?
I love Fury.
No, what?
What?
Especially if you're running like 11-21 with Thunderlords. Fury is just so good.
12-18.
12-18, sorry. 12-18. I just 11-17 is just how I always.
But it's 4% attack speed versus a flat 2% increase on all of your spells.
Yeah, I mean, I'll usually take the attack speed if I'm going jungle, simply because the attack speed is nice early.
Well, even on some junglers like Rengar, I'll take sorcery.
Yeah, I'll take sorcery on like Wukong because he's a lot more dependent on his damage from his E and his Q than he is on it.
It's funny that it's because I know it's like ability damage, so it applies and it's relevant, but it's weird for me to imagine it's like, oh yeah, Wukong, he totally needs sorcery, right?
It's a weird that's a good point to clarify. It's not just things that do magic damage, it is all abilities. So, factor that into your play. Moving down, the first tier Keystone Master, we have Double-Edged Sword versus Feast. Double-Edged Sword, they made pretty tasty for melees to deal an additional 3% damage and take 1.5.
I thought only the last one was called the Keystone.
They're all all those were, it's just a 1 point deal. They're Keystones.
Really?
So the ones at the end are a tier 3 Keystone.
Oh, I just always thought that was the Keystone.
Well, that's what everyone says, like when they say Keystone, but technically it is tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 Keystones.
I've been getting in the poor habit of calling it the 11 and 17 Keystones. So I've just been calling it 11 and 17. It's been getting frustrating.
I'm looking at the wiki for the Ferocity Mastery tree, and then it goes through the different tiers, and then the only thing it puts in parentheses for Keystone are the ones that are under tier 6.
Well, I just no because I was on the. Why are we arguing over semantics here? But like, there was a Riot thread yesterday when they were talking about the changes they're going to make, and they specifically said, the tier 1 keystones, tier 2 keystones. Okay. But anyways, you have double-edged sword versus feast.
Double-edged sword for life.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost always go double-edged sword unless you have.
If you're running ferocity, why in the world would you be going feast? In like almost always,
AD carries, I would take feast.
I would still take.
I would take feast on some junglers that have trouble early, but
I mean, it like in a laning situation where you're going to be taking and giving more damage, it doesn't make sense. It's just a washout then.
But what if you're like a Cho'Gath and you're hungry?
I love.
Then obviously you feast.
Okay.
No, for like Cho'Gath, you gotta take double-edged sword. Any melee person, you take double-edged sword definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, next tier we have Vampirism versus Natural Talent. Vampirism will give at rank 5 an additional 2% lifesteal and spell vamp versus Natural Talent, which will give 10 attack damage and 15 ability power at level 18.
I hate this tier so much.
Yeah, I don't like this tier. Or I think almost always go Natural Talent, but
see, that's another. I like Vampirism on AD carries. It's 10 attack damage versus 2% lifesteal.
It's not necessarily the what it gives you. It's how it's giving it to you. I don't like how I can't utilize some parts of the mastery depending on the champion I'm playing. So if like I'm running a ferocity tree playing Riven, for example, I'm losing out on some part of that mastery because I don't do any, magic damage and I don't do any ability damage. Like, and that part of me just gets so frustrated. I'm like, God, what a wasted freaking mastery.
Well, if you have the spell vamp, that'll apply on your abilities.
I thought spell vamp was only applied to magic damage.
I don't know.
That's
something I need. Okay. But like, I think Riven, yeah, I'd go Natural Talent. It really is just either do you want to do damage or sustain, which is a common theme in this tree here.
Yeah.
I generally laning out like Vampirism unless you're going for the straight damage sort of build, assassins and like damage heavy top laners, mid laners as well, because they're going to get a lot less out of the 2% lifesteal spell vamp. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed. I still prefer Natural Talent, but agreed.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Next, Bounty
moving
Hunter
on,
or Oppressor.
Yeah.
Bounty Hunter. Yeah, Bounty Hunter. I don't know. All right, Bounty Hunter, killing an enemy champion permanently increases your damage by 1%, but you can only claim this once per enemy champion. So to get the maximum effectiveness out of this, you would have to kill each enemy champion at least once.
I do that all the time.
Okay, yeah, maybe
so
if you're playing
easy.
mid,
Right.
but it really depends on what you're doing or if you're actually getting the kills.
Fair.
The other, on the other hand, is Oppressor, which is you deal 2.5% increased damage to targets while impaired or with impaired or inhibited movement. Name me how many times you're attacking or dealing damage to a target that doesn't have some form of CC on them when you're in any team fight.
So my only argument to these versus like these against each other is with Bounty Hunter, if you kill 3 individual people, you're already surpassing that of Oppressor. That means that all you have to do is kill 3 people, and everything you do deals 3% bonus damage, not whether or not they're like impaired or not. So I feel like this one is like a total washout. Like, why would you go Oppressor when Bounty Hunter you're almost guaranteed to get something
because of
good
the
out of it?
if factor.
It's an if, and especially in the early game, you're less likely to kill multiple different people.
But 2.5% of damage at the beginning of the game is nothing. It like doesn't even matter at the beginning of the game.
Well, it's no more than 2.5% later on. It's still 2.5%.
Yeah, but 2.5% of a large amount versus against a small amount is not the same.
It's still 2.5%.
Well, but you also have to look into comparison of what you're going against. If you're ahead, 2.5% is a lot because you're also taking 2.5% of what you're doing against their little amount because they're not as strong as you are. So that being said, for 5% as well.
Bottom line, I think if you have reliable CC early on and you're really looking to get a lead, I think Oppressor is better. It really is just like, are you looking for a little bit of gain early or scaling into the later game?
Most champions, I kind of agree with Doom. Like most of the time you're dealing damage to somebody, like they're impaired and in some way, like in a meaningful part of the game.
Yep.
I don't know.
They're both.
I
a lot of the times you can look back in retrospect and say, "Oh, yeah, like if I would have went Bounty Hunter, it would have been better." But you are kind of throwing it up in the air and saying, I have to get at least 3 kills on separate champions, which
it's not that hard.
On certain people, it's not hard. Others, it's harder.
I think if you're like roaming like crazy, and I don't know, you're like Katarina or something, maybe it makes more sense.
I think it's playing more on the aspect of the if, which like I said,
specifically on kills, not on assists.
Yeah, you're more likely to deal more damage. You're more likely to have the opportunity to deal more damage to an impaired or inhibited movement target than to get 5%, bonus damage because you've killed everyone at least once.
I mean, but
it is really strong when you do get that.
It is 5%. Super strong. Don't get me wrong, but.
All right, so moving on here, second to last thing in the ferocity tree, we have battering blows versus piercing thoughts. This is really straightforward. It's armor or magic penetration, 7%.
We don't need to talk about this one at all. That's pretty straightforward.
We'll talk about it when we get back into cunning tree, but for right now, yeah, battering blows will give you 7% armor penetration. Piercing thoughts gives you 7% magic penetration. And then we have our tier 3 keystones in the ferocity tree, starting off with Warlord's Bloodlust.
What a
and this makes your critical strikes on enemy champions heal you for 15% of the damage dealt and grant you 20% attack speed for 4 seconds with a cooldown of 2 seconds.
It's
it used to be more bullshit.
It used to be more true. It did, but it's still irritating.
It used to be completely bullshit. Now it's okay.
It can work on some ADCs and it can work on Tryndamere. Outside of that,
if certain other keystones weren't so strong, more AD carries would be taking Warlord's Bloodlust.
That's gonna be the theme of tonight's episode,
basically.
But like. The fact that it heals you and gives you 20% attack speed is a really nice buff to it. Especially since crit is more available this season on a lot more items. It's easy to get crits off, and it's a good form of lifesteal since lifesteal has almost been not taken out, but set aside for more crit and damage in builds for AD carries. So that's that mastery. It's going to be good on most AD carries no matter what. It's just not the best right now. Speaking of not being the best right now, Fervor of the Battle. This one I was... Well, not now because of the nerf. So right now what it does, I'm just going to read this verbatim here. You generate stacks of fervor by hitting enemy champions with attacks and abilities. Your basic attacks deal 1 to 8 bonus physical damage to your enemy champion for each of your stacks of fervor, and a max of 10 stacks damage based on your level. Attacking enemy champion generates 1 stack of fervor or 2 for a melee champion, and damaging enemy champions with an ability generates 2 stacks of fervor with a 2-second cooldown. Stacks of fervor last 6 seconds.
Yeah.
This used to be a lot more ubiquitous across the roles, but then they changed it so that it only stacks on champions.
Also Thunderlords.
Which is what, yeah. Well, I think...
Don't spoil it.
If it was... if it still stacked on everything, I think you'd still see a fair amount of fervor.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I could see it on Lucian.
It's fervor is good on a very small subset of champions that are able to get in and auto attack quite a bit. Warwick, you can kind of run this on. Master
A lot of champs with
Yi,
AA resets.
Lucian.
Master Yi,
Lucian.
Lucian. Not right now with Lucian.
Not
Xin
anymore.
Zhao,
yeah.
but
Possibly, yeah. Xin,
then
yeah.
Deathfire Touch.
This is a cool
It's an
ability.
interesting ability. I like
Deathfire
it.
Touch, I will say it works very well on certain champs that have dots. So like Deathfire,
Brand.
yeah, exactly. Deathfire Touch Brand is pretty terrifying. Deathfire Touch,
Malzahar.
Cassiopeia,
Victor.
yeah, Victor,
Teemo.
Malzahar, Teemo. Yeah,
Timo.
this is one of the few other Keystone Masteries that's actually still decently picked right now.
Yeah.
Because any champ that does a significant amount of damage over time,
Darius.
it just stacks with that damage over time. It can just deal a surprising amount of damage over that time.
So yeah, what it does, damaging abilities cause enemy champions to take magic damage equal to 8 plus 50% of your bonus attack damage and 20% of your ability power over 4 seconds. Deathfire Touch has a reduced effectiveness when applied by area of effect and damage over time abilities. In an area of effect spell, it has a 2-second duration, and a damage over time, it has a 1-second duration. So I'm like, it's still good. Like, I think you could take this on pot like Syndra even, just if you're able to get out constant harass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would run this on Syndra still. Most mages you can get away with this ability or this keystone.
Yeah. So it's an interesting rival for some of the other really strong keystones.
I might run it on Syndra if there
Speaking-
wasn't another mastery.
Yeah, speaking of really strong keystones, let's talk about the Cunning Tree.
So the Cunning Tree is
This tree's
interesting.
cool. This tree's
I like it.
It's like your I'd say it's like your
It used
your
to be
most
the
utility tree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's your bread
and
butter
it
tree.
still really is
Right.
utility tree because
Except for a few things.
but it does well. That's still kind of a utility thing though, if you really
Right.
think about it.
Kicking the
It's-
shit out of people. Utility.
Yeah, with lightning.
With thunder. What?
Oh
From
boy.
Lords.
Okay.
So first tier, there's Wanderer and Savagery. So Wanderer grants gaining movement speed, bonus movement speed while out of combat, 0.6, 1.2, 1.8, 2.43. With Savagery, basic attacks and single target spells deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonus damage to minions and monsters. This honestly, these are both good on just about any jungler. These two are both really built towards junglers, if you ask me.
Mhm.
Savagery helps you last it.
Yeah, I
It
was gonna say
does.
Savagery does help you last hit. I think in lane you're almost always going to take Savagery because
yeah.
it just makes it so much easier to last hit.
Mhm.
Wanderer though, if you roam a lot, so like supports and junglers, you'll find taking Wanderer maybe a little more often than Savagery.
Junglers would take Savagery more often than not
Well, it
because it
depends on
does
the
apply an
jungler.
Depends on the
Depends
jungler. See, I
Depends on the
really
jungler.
like to roam around a lot, so I like
Yeah.
You're trading
I
that
find
for an
myself
extra
using
5
Wanderer a
damage
lot.
on every attack.
It really depends on the jungler though. Like if you're playing someone like a Mumu, you're not gonna run Savagery. But or Sejuani or champs like that. But if you're playing someone like Master Yi or Echo, I play a lot of Echo jungle. I would be running Savagery.
Okay, well hold on. Okay, would you
point.
save more time by killing the monster faster or moving 3% faster?
This is only basic attacks and single target spells is most important.
Right, but
there.
even people like Sejuani and Amumu, they're auto attacking a ton in the jungle.
They're
they
auto-attacking
still would
some, but
They still take attack speed in their runes and stuff.
Yeah,
just because
but
it is really important.
after your first clear and once you get like your first item, you're pretty okay for sustaining in the jungle as far as like just staying in it, especially if you buy a refillable pot. So at that point, staying in the jungle is going to be fine. You need to be getting around
But
as quick as you can to
it's
and getting to ganks.
right, but it's clearing it.
But the auto
so if you're
attacks
able
mean
to
very little
but
in the
it's
grand scheme of things
but if
because
you're
most of your damage at that point is coming from your abilities, not from your auto attacks.
But let's say this mastery, like even if it makes it so you have to auto attack once less per camp,
Yeah,
it saves you it saves you that much. That's going to save you roughly 0.75 seconds per camp. Leaving that camp 0.5 seconds faster or moving 3% faster, which is going to net you more?
Depends how far you're going.
Probably
I don't
actually
know.
the Wanderer. Honestly, like when you think about how important movement speed is, yeah, it's out of combat specifically, but that doesn't really matter all that much. I mean, there are runes that give 1.5 for one room.
Mhm.
One rune, 1.5, and we have here getting just flat for one tier, 3% movement speed, basically
Right.
2 quintessences of movement speed for one tier of runes. Like or masteries. It's pretty. I mean, it's a pretty good tier if you
Yeah.
compare it to everything else.
Yeah, 3% is a good chunk of movement speed, especially when you are the jungler and roaming large distances. That 3% will accrue and get you there quite a bit faster, especially if you're stacking that with stuff like Moby Boots
So
or your Quinn.
Yeah, I guess the important thing about that one to decide which one would be more effective is to determine how quickly Wanderer kicks in after you break combat with a camp. Because if it's instantaneous and it's just like that, then I would say Wander every time. But if it's like Mobies where it takes like 4 seconds for it to finally kick in, then I would probably agree with you and say Savagery. It just I would need to. Test it
That's
to
right.
see.
It is out of combat.
Out of
too.
combat.
Yeah,
So it'll still take 8 seconds for that to go into effect.
I don't think it's 8 seconds.
8 seconds is what it takes to get out of combat.
That's for death streaks. Mobies takes 4 seconds to kick in, and that's out of combat, quote unquote.
Okay.
So if it's gonna follow anything, it would follow Mobies, and if it didn't follow Mobies
Right.
and was just instantaneous, that's what I would
So,
appreciate the most.
I would say on most people, laners especially, you're going to be wanting taking Savagery if you're going down the cunning tree.
Fact. So you'll just get more use out of it, and just a general like grand scheme of things. It's just.
I
very
thought
useful.
I'd point this out here. Like, in the new mastery system, there's like 5-point masteries and then there's 1-point masteries. But like, is there really ever a case where you wouldn't put all 5 points
Yes.
in a?
Yeah.
Really?
Actually, and in fact, in Wanderer and Savagery is one of them. If I'm playing a champion that auto attacks a lot, sometimes I'll put just a couple points in Wanderer to help move around a bit, and then the rest in Savagery, and then another over in Resolve, I think it is. I like the tenacity, and then a little bit in Legendary Guardian too.
Okay. That's your prerogative.
I personally haven't done that
It's-
at all this season.
I'd say it's not common. I'm not going to argue if it's better or not, but it's not something people typically do. Let's move on here.
So might as well
Right.
try it.
So moving on here to the tier 1 keystones here in the cunning tree, we have Runic Affinity, buffs for neutral monsters last 15% longer. Secret Stash, your potions and elixirs last 10% longer, and your health potions are replaced with biscuits that restore 20 health and 10 mana instantly on use. And then the newest one, Assassin, which lets you deal 1.5 increased damage when no allied champions are nearby. And I think the range is about like 600, 700. It's similar to Kha'Zix's like isolate range.
Yeah, it's similar to his isolate range. So, I mean, TLDR of this tier is that if you're a jungler, you should almost always get Runic Affinity. Or if you're a mid who's getting blue a lot, Runic Affinity is pretty good.
I still get Secret Stash.
Yeah, like the problem with the Runic Affinity, it's only 15%. So you're going from 2 minutes to 2 minutes and a little bit. It's not, the 15% isn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
You're getting a whole lot more mileage if you get
Hell,
Secret Stash.
Adds up over
even
time,
as a
though.
jungler, I may not even run Runic
Right.
Affinity. I still
If I'm
might
going
run
on
Secret
someone that does
Stash.
damage, I would go either Secret Stash or Assassin.
Yeah, I like on Echo jungle, I run Secret Stash over Runic Affinity.
Kindred, 100% go on Assassin.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah, I think someone that it's like a duelist
Rengar,
jungler.
Assassin, Xin Zhao, Assassin.
Yeah, Lee Sin.
Lee Sin, Assassin.
Soraka.
Oh,
Don't actually
The
do that.
unseen
last one.
banana is the deadliest. So I like the addition of the Assassin Mastery. But if you are going cunning and you want to get that 12 points into there, your safest thing to do is get Secret Stash. That's what you're going to get the most mileage out of.
It's so good.
It is really good.
yeah, it really is good. I find I basically almost always take that top.
Mm-hmm. So moving on here to our next one, we have Merciless versus Meditation. Merciless is going to give you at rank 5 5% increased damage to champions below 40% health.
So good.
Versus Meditation, which gives you 1.5% of your missing mana every 5 seconds.
Unless you're a
Which
support.
is really good.
Yeah, and I think in my opinion, unless you're a support, go Merciless.
Yeah.
It's a good amount of mana regeneration. Like, I'm not saying it on everyone, but like
40, it's like the fact that it's under 40% is so high. Like getting somebody at 40%, not that difficult. Like tons of people chill around that health.
Yeah. I don't know, like on Ezreal, a lot of times I'll still take Meditation just because that's a lot of good mana regeneration for extra
This is another
poke.
one of those ones where I would maybe consider splitting them just because even a couple % extra bonus damage is really good late game. That right there could be like the difference. And like the extra mana regen early on would be amazing.
Right.
So like
the mana regeneration makes less difference later on.
2 Merciless, 3 Meditation, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know, like in a game of what ifs, like if you're able to get out another spell because of that extra meditation mana versus doing 5% more. I don't know. I like both of them.
Spell.
But I mean an extra spell that's gonna do more than 5%.
5% across every single spell that you've used since then.
But I mean like if it's because like if they're at 40%, you use a spell, they're either going to pot up or go back at that point. So, like,
I guess it wouldn't be. 5%
it's good
of
for
every spell
assassinations.
It'd be 5% of every spell below.
But like, say
40%.
5%, if you have 4 spells that deal 100 damage, you're doing an extra 20. Versus if you're able to get another spell out for 100, that's still doing an extra 80 damage.
Well, it's 5% of. It's also of each spell used.
Yeah, so if you do...
In each damage.
If you do 4 spells that deal 100 damage, you're doing a total of an increased 20 damage across all 4 of those spells.
Not just
versus,
spells, too. It's also your regular
auto attacks too. Correct. So, I don't know. Like I like Meditation and Merciless, but Meditation is safer.
Split them. We should move on.
I should try splitting them before I say anything.
So
yeah.
The
next point's easy.
Keystone. Bandit, get 1 gold for each nearby minion killed by an ally, or you gain 3 gold when hitting an enemy champion with a basic attack. 10 if you're melee. There's a cooldown for it. It's 5 seconds. The alternative, Dangerous Game, champion kills and assists, restore 5% of your missing health and mana. Pretty much, I don't understand why you would ever want to go anything other than ever Dangerous
I even
Game
have it
ever.
in like my own sheet.
Dangerous Game is how you end up in the montage reels.
Dangerous Game is like the dangerous. Oh my!
Dangerous Game is how you got pentacles.
The fact that you don't have to put 3 points into getting this anymore is so nice. You just can get it. Oh, it's so great.
It's like, I love it. Like it's so many times. Like, wait, how the fuck did he not? Oh, damn it! Dangerous Game.
He like just barely survives after killing someone. That's Dangerous Game.
Goddamn Dangerous Game.
Yeah, But I mean, like, it's either you're a support and you take Bandit, or you're everyone else and you take Dangerous Game.
Yep. And even if you are support, you still could be
There is
convinced
still
to
that precedent to take,
play, to
Dangerous
take
Game,
Dangerous Game.
possibly.
So
Yeah.
I think last season this was like one of my favorite masteries, and now it's just because of the introduction of keystones. It's like it's still an amazing mastery, but it's just like there's some other things that are even more impactful.
I hate to say it, but this might be my favorite mastery. Like when I'm thinking about it, every single one of my trees involves having Dangerous Game in it. Every single
it's
one of
awesome.
them.
My
Every
favorite one
single
we're coming up on here, and that is precision versus intelligence. I
Both of these
fucking
are really
love
good.
precision. So at rank 5, precision gives 5 plus 0.5 per level armor penetration, and 3 plus 0.3 per level magic penetration. It's super fucking
Beautiful.
strong.
It's pretty good.
And
it's
then
super strong. And then
intelligence
will
allows
give-
you to increase the cap on your cooldown reduction. It grants 5% cooldown reduction, and it increases your maximum cooldown cap by 5%, so you can have a maximum 45% CDR instead of 40% CDR.
Which is pretty cool. That's like
It
a pretty
is.
neat thing that they.
It's cool, but would you rather have 5% more CDR, or would you rather have flat armor pen and flat magic pen?
Depends on what you're playing.
that is absolutely that is probably the most efficient mastery right there. Absolutely, giving 14 armor pen and 9 magic pen at level 18.
It's pretty strong.
That is really fucking strong. Like going against back in the ferocity tree, battering blows and piercing thoughts, which gives 7% penetration. I think it was like you had to have a 212 armor for battering blows to negate more than precision will, which is a lot, especially if you're like into assassinating people. It's a lot of armor to get through, like just for that to be more efficient. In early game, no one's going to have that much. Early game precision will always be more efficient than that 7%. So, like, on top of the other buffs to Thunderlords, this is the mastery that made everyone move to Thunderlords.
Yep.
Well, let's talk
Should
about
we just?
Yeah.
We should
right.
talk about the other two before we talk about
Sure.
Thunderlords.
Okay.
So first off is Storm Raider Surge. Storm Raider Surge.
Shittiest freaking keystone ever. Gotta say.
It sounds great
So bad.
until you
It's so
use it.
freaking Bad.
So, all right,
so useless.
dealing 30% of a champion's
Strength of the
maximum
Ages.
health within 2 seconds grants you 35% bonus movement speed for 3 seconds, and it has a 10-second cooldown. So basically, if you're a bursty assassin or a super bursty mage,
still won't take this.
Yeah.
you still won't take this.
Now.
Like, yeah, it sounds really cool because it sounds
Doesn't
like
even sound cool.
It like
being able to have the bonus movement speed so you
In
can just
theory,
burst and like run away real quick. That's
For
nice
3
in
seconds.
theory.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
no, the numbers are just bad.
In a comparison, Ghost gives you 27% movement speed. This gives you 35%.
In theory, this sounds like great on Katarina, but it's just not good.
Like even on something like Nasus, you get down to Kane once and then you're able to keep up with people, but it's still severely outclassed by the other stuff in this tree, and that's the problem. So
what about Wind Speakers?
Wind Speakers is really good on a small subset of people. Again, in Wind Speaker's Blessing, your heals and shields are 10% stronger. Additionally, your shields and heals on other allies increase their armor by 5 to 22 based on level, and their magic resistance by half that amount for 3 seconds. And because of this mastery, I'm really pushing for more supports that take this mastery to take heal instead of their AD carry.
Agreed.
But it's just like, you got Soraka, Nami, Sona, you may take it on, Lulu, Janna, definitely. Janna, you have to take that on.
Yeah.
Just, it's It's a really good like support mastery.
Yeah, I don't think you would take it on Lulu, but Jana maybe.
Well, if there wasn't another mastery.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're doing this Masteries review, but honestly, after some upcoming changes, which I think are inevitable, it could very much change what is strong on who relative to another.
Right.
Yeah.
And
like even on Sona, like I would probably rather take the Thunderlords.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
should we just get into it
well,
now?
real quick,
let's take a little
Windspeaker's
bit.
Blessing, I will say, like, yeah, there are certain supports it's really good on. I think Soraka, it's like a must take on.
Mhm.
That's really kind of about it, though. In my opinion, maybe you could say Nami,
Janna.
but I wouldn't even say Nami. Maybe
Janna.
Janna. Yeah.
Definitely Janna.
All right, so now this is
the big kahuna.
the big kahuna, the god tier Keystone Mastery right now.
Most
Basically, I
important
think over
mastery.
90% of people are using this mastery, no
Outside
matter who
of-
they're playing.
Probably
right now.
outside of top lane champions and some dot champions.
It's not uncommon to
Different
see
cases.
every single when you press tab to see nothing but a lightning bolt.
Right.
Yeah. So Thunderlord's Decree, dealing damage to an enemy champion with a basic attack or ability, marks them for 5 seconds. At 3 stacks, a bolt of lightning strikes down, dealing 10 times your champion's level, plus 30% of your bonus AD, plus 10% of your total AP magic damage to all enemies in an area around that person. It can only be triggered once every 20 seconds. TLDR, it's that every 3 either auto attacks, abilities, or both. And this can also be applied by abilities that tick multiple times. So maybe Morgana's
Nidalee's traps, Caitlyn's
pool, and
traps,
stuff like that.
Malphite,
Anything
damage over time.
Brand
Yeah.
passive, Twitch passive.
applies those stacks. So then a bolt of lightning strikes down, and it does AOE damage. So not only that champ,
Which you
but
never
anyone
actually
that's
really notice.
yeah,
actually.
anyone that's pretty close to them. It's a pretty small radius, but it's still in a clustered team fight. It's enough to be able to hit, one or two other people.
And it can only be triggered once every 20 seconds.
Right.
Yes. But I mean, the burst potential that it adds when starting an engagement or in the middle of a team fight or something like that is just silly.
Well, it does add a lot for team fights, but for certain champions, it makes their laning phase a lot easier. Every 20 seconds, being able to get an extra 30, 40, whatever. Even in the late game, certain champions, this will deal an extra 200, 250 to 300 damage.
Honestly, I think this is so huge in lane. I've noticing it way more than any of the other masteries in lane. Just the ability to just
maybe
get
one
that
other one
proc.
we'll get into.
This
But that proc is so huge. I find on so many
is.
champions, I feel like I look up champion guides now and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, this synergizes super well with Thunderlords." But you have to face the fact that you're probably going to be up against somebody who else is also running the same mastery.
I mean, Thunderlord is really good. The whole cunning tree is just really good.
Thunderlords is so beautiful on Wukong because I know I've talked about Donkey Kong before.
Yeah.
This is the extra cherry on top for Donkey Kong because you E in auto attack Q and suddenly they get hit with your Thunderlords, with your Black Cleaver stacks.
Do you even
and they
need to
get-
auto attack? I thought one of either your E or EQ applied 2 stacks of it counted as
E only applies 1, attack
Okay.
applies 1, Q
maybe I'm
applies
thinking
1.
of something else.
But to get to what Doom is saying, to expand on it a little bit, it's so easy for a lot of champions to
burst.
just proc this really
Right.
reliably that it's why would you not just take that extra oomph?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Plus a dead man's plate.
certain things. There's a mastery in the resolve tree. We'll get
I just
into.
feel like it's kind of when we had that discussion about home guards back
Mhm.
when you had to actually buy home guards and it wasn't given away for free, it was always like, okay, well, I need to make a case for this boot enchant on this champion with their skill set to like actually justify me not getting Thunderlords, not getting
Yeah.
home guards. Now it kind of feels that way with this mastery. It's so strong.
I think the only set of champions that take this less and less are like a tanky
Yeah,
tanky champions.
it's
They're
mostly
still
tanks.
really solid in Resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else can get away with taking Thunderlords, no problem.
Yeah.
Even 80, especially 80 carries now.
I mean, honestly, if you don't know how to set up the mastery trees after this episode, just follow this. Always go Thunderlords.
Yeah.
Like, if all else fails, as of this patch right now that we're in, so right now we're in patch 5.24.
5.24.
If you're in patch 5.24 and you're playing League of Legends and you don't know what to do, always go Thunderlords.
Yep.
Just go
It'll
Thunderlords.
either be 18 in Cunning with either 12 in Ferocity or Resolve.
And I will
Most
say
likely
this,
Ferocity.
like if you want to be a better player, like make sure in lane if your champion doesn't basically automatically proc it with their skill combo, like try and proc it if you can. Like I know that like something as simple as like weaving in an extra auto attack could be the difference of procking this or not, and like that could be a big difference in a trade.
I love it on Israel. It gives me even more reason to E forward now. I love it. It's so fun.
I think I like it. I mean, I love it on like every champion, but I've been experimenting with LeBlanc a bit in the preseason. And if you like tap them and then you dash in and then tap them again, like you've already dashed back and you've struck them with lightning, and it's like, wee.
Yeah.
Thunder
So
Strike.
let's start wrapping this up and let's get into the resolve tree here. So resolve tree is basically your tank tree. So first off, in tier 1, we have recovery and unyielding. Recovery grants 2 HP per 5 seconds regeneration, and unyielding increases bonus armor and magic resistance by 5%. They're both pretty good, honestly. If you're going to stack more HP or you're more HP reliant, recovery tends to be pretty good. But if you're going to add more, I don't know.
I think it's really
hard.
just it's early game versus later game.
Yes.
Recovery is going to help a ton in the laning phase, especially if you're a support. That's, I think, the person who's going to benefit most from it. Some tanky champions, obviously, but if you're going tanky, you have to go. You have to go unyielding.
Mundo. Mundo.
Well, like that's not even going to help. 2% is a drop in the bucket later on.
Yeah.
No, it's not even percent. It's just 2 flat. That is a drop in the bucket when you're regenerating over 150 per second.
True.
So if you know you're going to be going tanky, like even on certain supports where you're going to be getting a frozen heart later on, that'll already pay for itself. It's 5% bonus armor and magic resist. So in a lot of cases, unyielding will be your better choice in that. Moving on to the tier 1 keystones, we have Explorer, which will give 15 movement speed in Brush and River. It's important to note that it is flat movement speed, not percent. And then we have Tough Skin, which will make you take 2 less damage from champions and neutral monster basic attacks.
I like Explorer.
Yeah.
I prefer Explorer. But, you know, it's just me.
So, Doom, Jungle, what are you taking?
Out of Explorer and Tough Skin, I'm almost always gonna go Tough Skin, personally. I think cumulatively it helps more just by being that little extra bit healthier. I mean, Brush and River, yeah, that's nice and all, but I don't know. I don't know that 15 movement speed in those specific locations is better than the
specific.
tank attributes.
Well, I mean,
So
like that's your main route to go.
It's a lot of
ganking.
places.
it's a lot of places,
it's
but
good.
I mean,
And it
The
doesn't
fact that like
just-
you can be at Wraith Camp and negate 8 damage per like each of their attack cycles is also
Yes.
really big.
yes. So I mean, I don't know. I find myself, I find myself not usually going into this tree on a lot of the
I love
junglers
this
I
tree.
play. But if I was going to go with one, I personally would go tough skin because I'd rather be more healthy for ganks than get to ganks that tiny bit faster.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like most time, you're going to wait for a second before you go into a gank, anyways. You're not just rushing right in there, so a little bit extra movement speed may not even make the difference, but
Meh.
having a little
But
extra
getting
health
to it.
may. Right, if it is in that situation where you're rushing to the gank, it may.
And it's
And
not just the gank,
just
though, it's
15
in
flat,
general.
right? 15 flat movement speed does stack with everything else for
Mm-hmm.
percent increase, so it is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, next one here, we have Runic Armor versus Veteran Scars. They changed the Veteran Scars again here. So now at rank 5, it gives a flat 45 health versus Runic Armor, which at rank 5, which will make shields, healing, regeneration, and lifesteal on you 8% stronger.
I think that runic armor is the better, period, because like if you're gonna have any bit of lifesteal, so from a jungler perspective, it's that you get lifesteal based off of the jungle items. So you lifesteal off of camps.
But then you're only but that only means you're going from 10 to 10.8 lifesteal from your jungle item then.
And pots.
Okay.
You're right.
Pots are
And
also getting bonus
pots
healing and your
and-
natural regeneration. I mean, this one's pretty straightforward. If you have somebody that has a shield and has a heal, then you run runic armor. If you don't, then you don't run runic armor. That's pretty much it.
But I don't want to undersell the 45 flat health from Veteran
No,
Scars.
exactly.
Can be really
Veteran
good
Scars
in the early game.
is great if you don't have somebody that can utilize the shields and the healing aspect of it. Like I think the runic armor is amazing, especially if you have somebody that does heal and provides a shield.
Oh, like
Yep. You have to
this
remember
would be
though.
the one on like Mundo. Be freaking crazy.
Yes. You have to remember though, like a lot of the new items are either built for sustaining in the lane or for like going ham in the lane, like Cull or the what is
I
it?
love that they admitted Cole was awful.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if you're going to be a little more YOLO in lane and going a bit more for the kill rather than worrying about sustaining, the Veteran Scars might be a little better to go with because having just that flat extra health to help you, is nice. But I really think that Veteran Scars only helps you in the early game. If you're worried about the game as a whole, runic armor is going to benefit you more for the most part. But if you need a real strong early laning phase, Veteran Scars is that nice little, equalizer.
Yeah. Okay, so getting down to tier 2 keystones here in Resolve Tree, we have Insight, which reduces the cooldown of summoner spells by 15%, or we have Perseverance, which gives a flat 50% base health regen, increased to 200% when below 25%.
Mundo.
But
Pretty
even
much anybody.
Yeah.
Well, it's either that or 15% CDR on your summoner spells.
Perseverance is, I'm so
you can't
sold on Perseverance.
at
Oh,
Yeah,
15%.
you can't add 15%
No.
less flash.
That is-
15% less teleport.
really not that
15% less ignite.
It's
But even
really
like
not that
on
much.
Mundo, getting down to 200%, I need to look up his base, but it's not like you're not getting out as much of it as it really makes it seem like you are.
You get a lot out of Perseverance. Perseverance is a great
But you have
But
to remember, though,
it's
this is only
15% cooldown reduction on summoners.
But you have to remember, though, Perseverance is only off of base
That's
health
the thing.
regeneration.
It's only base.
So it really depends on the champ you're talking about. I think for a lot of tops and a lot of junglers, it's a pretty Perseverance is pretty good to go with. But I think for most mids, supports, and
So
ADCs,
go ahead.
Insight is almost always going to be better.
Okay, so like our poster boy for health regen, Dr. Mundo, at level 18, his base health regen is 20.5 per 5. When he's below 25%, that would then increase to...
It'd be 31. It'd be 31 at with the 50% bonus.
Yeah,
200% of
you'd be
it.
at the... Wait, sorry. The 200% would be you'd be at the 40.
Just double it.
No, it's going to put it up at 40, 50, 60. It's going to put it over 60.
You just double it.
Plus 200, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, I would still, even then, I would rather have the cooldown reduction.
Oh my god, no way.
Not on a Mundo.
Not on
I would.
People. No.
When you look at how much health he's already regenning at that point,
15%
I'd rather take the cooldown reduction.
5 minutes. What is that?
Yeah, that's a good amount.
If we're talking 15 derp, yeah, I did screw up maths derp.
That's like 5 seconds.
15% off of a 600-second cooldown.
300 seconds.
What am I? Oh yeah, why I say 5 minutes? I think it's
coupled with distortion, that could be pretty freaking good for sure.
See, I think like 15%.
That's 45 seconds.
Yeah, 15% reduced cooldown on summoner spells. So Annie, yeah, totally.
And like you take flash on everyone. 45 seconds less on flash.
Yeah, but flash. I put that shit on everything.
Yeah, but if you're talking a champ that like relies on flash, like they are a completely different champion with flash than they are without. Yeah, granted, every champ is, but like if they really are like an Annie, I think Insight is the way to go. But I think if they're not, and they're more of maybe like a tanky type or a sustainer or something like that, like a bruiser or someone who may need like the lane sustain or something like that. I think that Perseverance is the way to go. Like I said, TLDR in my opinion is if you're jungle or top, go Perseverance for most of those champions. If you're anything else, I'd go Insight. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'm not going to keep arguing this. We all both have our opinions. I'll say go Insight on just about everything. Yeah, let's move on here. We're almost done. Next one up, we have Swiftness versus Legendary Guardian. Swiftness at tier 5 is going to give you 15% tenacity and slow resist.
That's beautiful.
Versus Legendary Guardian, which will give you 3 armor and magic resist for each nearby enemy champion.
Tenacity and slow resist. Tenacity.
Yeah.
Tenacity.
Mostly because the nerf to Merc Dreads.
That too.
Makes it so there's a lot more viability in boots. Like getting that plus Swifties, Ash basically does nothing.
I mean, yeah, I may play Wukong, who's a champ whose passive is that you get bonus armor magic resist based off nearby champions, but 3 per nearby enemy champion. Yeah. It's not enough in my opinion. You're only talking a total of 15 if the entire enemy team is near. That's not enough.
Because
it's just flat armor.
Well said, Haber.
Yeah. Boring. Move on to the fun stuff here.
Yep.
So our keystones here, we'll start with Bond of Stone. This used to be the big one that everyone got, especially on supports. But now it gives 3% damage reduction, increased to 6% while near an allied champion. 6% of the damage taken by the nearest allied champion is dealt to you instead.
I like this
It's-
keystone.
It works on certain tanks.
Yeah, it works on certain tanks, but once again, there's a thing called Thunderlords.
Well, I
But
mean, I don't
it's-
know. On
On even a lot of tanks, there's another one better in
yeah,
this tree.
Grasp of the Undying. So we'll go the other one first. So Strengthen the Ages, killing or
No
being
one
near
takes.
by to an allied champion, killing siege minions and large monsters permanently grants bonus health 20 for kills or 10 for being nearby. This bonus is capped at 300, after which nearby siege minion kills restore you 100 health.
It's just such a strange
It's
mastery.
so
It's-
niche.
I never see anyone take it.
Keystone.
They're going to be changing it, so instead of giving 100 health, it restores, I think, 4% max health. But even then, it's like, okay, that's one on Grasp of the Undying. Who the fuck cares? So that is probably... No, it's just probably either the least used or second least used keystone.
Probably the worst tier 3
Storm
keystone.
Raiders.
No, I still think that
Okay.
that is worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Worse.
And then Grasp
So,
of the
yeah.
Undying. So this is why Mundo is so strong right now. Grasp of the Undying.
One of the reasons.
After every 4 seconds in combat, your next basic attack against a champion deals bonus magic damage equal to 3% of your maximum health and restores as much health.
Mhm.
So basically,
Yeah.
I walk up, I'm Mundo, I have 1,000 health.
Well, like even like Gangplank, I see a lot of Gangplanks take this and just parlay them. And they still get the 3%, I think, because it's still counted as a melee, because he's a... I don't know, actually, about that point. But regardless, a lot of Gangplanks end up taking that mastery.
Yeah.
But Nasus, anyone, any tank, that's like... Out of the rest of them, that is probably the most used tank mastery.
It's nice because it adds that little element of burstiness to tanks. It's a sneaky burstiness, and it's pretty nice. I really like it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're building straight
'Cause
health,
Well, I mean, it's like every 4 seconds, too.
so I
Every
mean, you
4
can
seconds in combat.
you can do a significant. And if you're a tank, you're in combat a lot.
Yeah, I've heard a decent case for it for like Gnar and like a bad lane matchup. I mean, obviously, Thunderlords is amazing for harass in general, but like if you're up against like a Pantheon or something, late game, if you're like going tank, like you might want to get that like amount of healing that you're gonna get from Grasp, and it gives you sustain.
So it's a really good mastery, and I'd suggest people take a look at it, especially if you're going down that resolve tree.
It's one of the stronger ones besides the obvious strong
Right.
one.
Thunderlords, Lord of Thunder.
So, like, overall, this mastery system is a lot better about giving you different choices.
Yeah, you can choose like lightning or like thunder or like both.
Shut up.
Or
But I
like
mean, like,
burning.
everything else, like, you're given more of a choice that you can change depending on the matchup, and it's really easy for people to understand because it's a lot less cluttered. So definitely it's a really good thing to start learning this season more than you may have in previous seasons. And do we have time to finish up with a listener? I think
I think we should really do at least one, because like we've had a few of these on the back burner for a while. Because we
we're
took
running
that
pretty late though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about this, guys? Let's do a listener question episode next week. Next week?
We
I
can do
don't.
2 next week.
We'll do these ones next week at the very least.
Yeah, we'll get to listener questions next week regardless. So.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so
Sorry.
don't forget to set us in some listener questions now that we're back from the New Year Christmas break here,
That's 4wards at trinityforcepodcast.com.
or at 4. That's the number 4 Wards Podcast on
It's
Twitter.
going to be in the outro.
Yep.
So thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you guys next week. It's great to be back.
Thank you. Bye bye.
See you.
See ya.